Welcome back to the fifth and final segment of the fourth lecture on utilitarian reasoning. I want to talk to you about direct and indirect utilitarian reasoning in this segment. Direct utilitarianism treats maximizing utility, the goal of utilitarianism, as a decision procedure for each act. Each act has to be judged according to a calculation of the utilities it causes. And this can cause problems because sometimes it's difficult to think fast enough to know what to do. It can take you a long time to work out the consequences of acts. And sometimes doing what may seem best for that one act may not add up to the best outcome. For example, if there's this lovely lawn and people are wanting to cross it, if you cross the lawn, walk across the lawn, then you will cause no damage to the lawn and you will experience some happiness from doing so. However, if everybody reasons like that, walks on the grass, then the lawn may become ruined. And when you get situations like that, you find that people acting on deciding on each time they act whether that's the best thing to do may give an answer that you don't like. The indirect thought doesn't treat maximizing utility as a way of making a decision, but as a standard of rightness for using other ethical approaches. That's why it's indirect. An indirect utilitarian justifies other ways, other ethical approaches from within a utilitarian framework. For example, it might justify a rule that says keep off the grass. And if everybody obeys that rule, then everybody will have the pleasure of looking at a lovely lawn, even though they won't destroy it as they would under the direct utilitarian procedure. So utilitarianism can advocate obedience to principles, justice, rights, virtue, whatever else is necessary, but an eclectic mix of things that will maximize total utility. And people don't decide, if you're an indirect utilitarian, you tell people don't decide each time you're trying to do something what to do. Consult the rules or consult the people's rights or whatever, and by doing that you'll actually produce a better outcome. So the advantages of indirect utilitarianism, it can call for respect for rights, and that'll reduce feelings of insecurity. Like, for example, you remember the transplant case in an earlier segment. The transplant surgeon takes the innocent victim, chops him up, and takes out his heart, lungs, and kidneys, and gives them to 5 people. Well, the indirect utilitarian would point out that was going to make going to the hospital a really dangerous thing to do, make people feel very insecure, and maybe we would be better overall if we had a rule that said respect everybody's rights. And we would be better off is a utilitarian viewpoint, right? We'll maximize aggregate happiness if we respect rights instead of making utilitarian type decisions each time we face a problem. So you can bring in the indirect utilitarian, can actually bring back in rights, can bring back in virtues. It can help with knowledge problems by making the huge calculations unnecessary. We just have a rule to follow. We don't have to do a huge cost-benefit analysis every time we want to do something. And it can avoid things like the grass crossing problem where harms accumulate, as I mentioned before. So it has certain advantages. Maybe this is a better way to think about utilitarianism. The easiest examples of indirect utilitarianism are act and rule utilitarianism. Act utilitarianism uses maximizing utility as a decision procedure for acts, and rule utilitarianism uses maximizing utility as a standard of rightness for rules. Okay, rule, keep off the grass. Maybe that works better than for everybody to do a little cost-benefit analysis of their individual crossing of the grass. So let me just point out where we've got here. We've got utilitarianism, we've got the direct version and the indirect version. One example of the direct version is this act utilitarianism, and basically you perform some sort of cost-benefit analysis each time you act. Now that may work for a business decision, or it may work for a decision about an environmental policy or something, but if you have to do a cost-benefit analysis of every action you take, where you add up pains and pleasures, which are very difficult to measure, or wonder about preference satisfactions, which in turn are difficult to measure, you're going to have have some difficulty here. The indirect version can be simple, as in, here's a set of rules, or it could be eclectic. Here's some rules, here's some rights, here's some virtues you should try to inculcate, but it's easier to apply. It can avoid problems like the grass crossing conundrum, and it can avoid this knowledge problem of doing a complete cost-benefit analysis every time you face a decision. And it's basically through this indirect, it's a rule, the rules of the market that produce a perfectly competitive market. And an economic market in perfect competition will be led, as Adam Smith said earlier, by an invisible hand to promote the interests of everybody, even though everybody in the market is told to act only in their own self-interest. Act in your own self-interest, but obey the rules of the market, and you will maximize total economic well-being. And we'll go into this in much more detail later on. Or if you see problems with rule utilitarianism, you can take an eclectic approach and worry about rights and virtues and all sorts of things like that. But the point is that you're justifying your rights, virtues, rules, or whatever by utilitarian standards at the beginning. That's what makes it utilitarian, even though your reasoning in a particular case is not utilitarian. These cost-benefit analyses, and you can imagine them taking place either financially or not financially, but a cost-benefit analysis is a decision technique where financial costs and benefits are measured according to people's willingness to pay. Remember, this is this economic viewpoint, willingness to pay, and then you add up the total benefits of each policy, and you use it as an input, either to making either as a factual input to a policy decision. It's a piece of positive economics. You don't use CBA to tell you what to do. You use CBA just as information on which decision makers can base their decisions. Or you can use it as a way of actually making a policy decision. Then you say, well, maximizing financial utility or economic utility requires that the policy which has the largest net benefits over costs, which should be the one that we take. So you can in economics, you can think of cost-benefit analysis as positive, or you can think of them as normative. Here's an example of a cost-benefit analysis. I mean, we've got three decisions, A, B, and C, and the cost-benefit analysis input to our decision process is to point out, is to measure the costs or benefits, let's say net benefits for people, add them up, aggregate them, right? And then you get these answers: 550 for A, 450 for B, 700 for C. Now the factual point is that pardon me, I lost control of my screen here. The factual point of view is that decision C has the highest aggregate utility measured in financial terms. And if you are thinking cost-benefit analyses normatively, you'll say, well, you should do decision C because it has the highest net benefits, just as other utilitarians would do. If you're not, if you're just a factual input, well, that's just something to observe when you decide between A, B, and C. And notice that even though C has the highest total, it's not necessarily the best decision, say, for Kira and Mike in this case, because Kira and Mike actually lose by decision C from their scenario in B, even though Nadia gains a huge pile. So it's there are other ethical concerns besides the total, besides the aggregate. There are concerns of fairness and rights. And once again, remember, whenever you're looking at justifying something according to utilitarian thinking, don't forget that there could be rights infringements, there could be justice problems. So here's a quick question just to help you assimilate all this. Which of the following best exemplifies the application of direct utilitarian reasoning? So pause the video, read through the answers, commit yourself to one, and I'll be back when you turn me back on again. Well, welcome back. Let's see. You've seen some of these before, but we can let's work our way through them. We're looking for direct utilitarian reasoning. If I had known it was defective, then I would not have chosen to buy it. Well, we've looked at that. That is the informed preference sort of reasoning, and it's well, I guess it's direct, but it's not straightforward. Talking about how to maximize aggregate utility. We should all keep off the grass to preserve the beauty of the garden. Well, we should all keep. This is a rule, right? Keep off the grass to preserve the beauty of the garden. It's a case where direct utilitarian reasoning might take us wrong, because we might say, well, you know, I'm not going to do very much damage, but I will really enjoy walking on the grass, so it's okay for me. That's the direct utilitarian says that. That's what the direct utilitarian would think. Here, we've got a rule against that. This is indirect. I made my decision by adding up all the positive and negative consequences of each option. Well, that's straightforward, direct, cost-benefit analysis, utilitarian reasoning. Compare this to D, where it says we should teach children to be honest. Honesty is a virtue. Why? Because doing so will make everyone better off. Well, everyone being better off is a utilitarian reasoning, but we're not getting at it directly. We're saying we should teach people virtues in order to make everybody better off. And that is indirect utilitarian reasoning. So probably our best answer is this one. You make your decision by a cost-benefit analysis. All right, thank you for that. That was